All right, Ms. Renner. So in today's society, have you seen any unearned advantages from being in the norm class of white privilege?
Yes. And I think that's something it took me to be older to see the ways that happened, because until I was able to see the way that to have experiences of not being the norm, right? To have experiences where I was in a church in Memphis, the only white person, right? And to feel how it palpably feels different. But one of the ways I was thinking about this actually a privilege. So I teach Raisin in the Sun to freshmen. And one of the things we were looking at was, as we talked about in class too, in our AP Lang class, was mortgages, like this history of the way mortgages were not for Black people, and how that continued even through till very recently. So when it was uncovered that Wells Fargo did that, and that really hit home for me, because I had literally last year just gone and walked in and had an appointment and was very easily given, a mortgage with a great rate, or so it was, and I think it's little moments like that where I don't realize the privilege when it happens, but often after the fact when I see someone else's experience compared to how easy mine is, compared to when I hear the stories of people for whom it's not easy.
The struggles the other people have.
Yeah.
Okay, and then have you ever seen anything with age, like advantages due to your age? The norm?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny thing, but I remember when I first started out teaching, I was 22, and it was very hard to I felt like I really had to work hard to be respected or to be listened to as seriously. And again, now that I've become kind of older and more confident, and I'm just in the age that of adulthood, that I don't think about it. It's not something I ever think about, but I remember it being a palpable feeling that I was, I had to kind of earn and show that kind of respect. Yeah.
And then have you seen advantages in being in the middle class?
Very much so. So I just finished grad school for 6 years in Oregon, in which we were paid below the poverty line, enough as a student you don't qualify for food stamps, but my salary was such that otherwise it would be, which is one thing to do for a couple of years, but for 6 years it's a long time to not do that, especially when you're having kids and getting married and all that. So I kind of lived through some of that disadvantage, but the thing that was really shocking to me was I had a lot of friends in grad school who were we were all kind of in the same financial situation, but not only one of the things that comes, no matter how much money I make, that comes with that middle class privilege is all the safety nets of, if I don't have enough money, I know I'll have a place to sleep. I know I'll have someone I can stay with. I'll know I can borrow money or get a credit card. And I had a lot of friends in grad school for whom that wasn't true. So it was even not having money was, a struggle on its own, which was hard, but I had so many other safety nets that were holding me back as part of even just a member who had grown up in the middle class that other people would not.
Yeah. And have you seen any disadvantages being a female in America?
Indeed, I have. I think there's, again, it's a subtle thing, but I think that for me, where that has been most interesting is where that operates around the layer of expectations about what people expect from you. Sometimes there's ways that people expect more from you in terms of the way that you're supposed to relate to them and care more, or be more maternal, or more able to manage relationships, right? One way of talking about that is affective work, right? The work of relationship building. There's just an assumption often that's kind of built into a lot of relationships or jobs that I've had, where that expectation is there. And kind of conversely, one of the places I saw that kind of discrimination pretty actively at work was in the academic job market, when I was looking for academic jobs, and there were very certain assumptions about what I could or couldn't do as a female professor that were not shared for my male colleagues.
Okay. And then have you seen your advantages that you got from being able-bodied and able-minded rather than being disabled?
Yeah, so in my education classes that I took in college, or after college, I guess, one of the moments that I had is where I had there's a class for how to teach kids with special needs, and the professor took a second and was like, all right, one of the things that kids with special needs often do is they call them self-stimulating behaviors, right? So it's like rocking or moaning, or rubbing your hands together or whatever. So he was talking about that, and the professor looked at it and said, so how many of you are engaged in your own self-stimulating behaviors? like drinking coffee or tapping your foot or doodling on the page or, you know, whatever those things were. And basically he's like, the difference is it's not, we all kind of do those things. It's just a matter of how, it's just we've learned to do them in socially appropriate ways. And a lot of times people with special needs are not. And there was just that moment too where I was like seeing myself that I was like, oh, we all have special needs. Yeah. I have a special need every morning for coffee, or I do not function. And able-bodiedness was interesting. It's an interesting, when I have these kind of brief glances where that is taken away. Being pregnant was an interesting way of being physically dependent on other people for certain things. And I used to, you know, we moved cross-country when I was pregnant, and I was not able to, like, help pack up anything that I owned. And it's there's a real helplessness and a vulnerability there, and having to ask for help that I again realized my privilege when that was kind of taken away for a brief time.
And then, have you seen any advantages from being in the normal religious group in America?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is just the being able to be, even just for holidays, right? Like Christmas, I get to say Christmas, I get to celebrate that. I get days off around my religious holidays. I think it's sometimes one of the less visible ones, but I think, again, because at Regis, that's something I feel really palpably in an interesting way.
Okay, and then finally, have you seen any advantages from being heterosexual in America?
Yeah, I mean, for me, that came up most, obviously, when we were getting married.
Mm-hmm.
So we got married we got engaged in January and married in August. So it was pretty quick in terms of like planning wedding. We had a big, big families, everybody's coming in. And my husband's best man was his friend Julie, who he grew up with, who is a lesbian. And she and her partner have been together for years and years and years, and they have been engaged for years, but have been waiting to get married until they were ready for that, or were able to do so, or a place where that marriage could be recognized. So it was really shocking to me how quickly and how much that machine and how easily, like, our families were on board and we could make that happen, versus the years that they'd been engaged and still had to wait just for that one little layer of legal stuff